a grandmother who survived a brutal attack by a convicted killer, has revealed how she played dead in a bid to make her attacker go away. Linda McDonald, from Dundee, was walking her Jack Russell Terrier Betsy in Templeton Woods when Robbie McIntosh attacked her with a dumbbell while he was on home leave from prison in August last year. Now the 53-year-old has recalled the harrowing details of the attack, which left her with horrific wounds to show how viciously she was attacked. Ms. McDonald told how she pleaded with McIntosh not to hurt and rape her, and how his face remained expressionless and devoid of emotion as he repeatedly hit her with a dumbbell. She also revealed how she fought to stay conscious in the aftermath of the attack in order to give police a description of her attacker in case she didn't survive and he got away with the crime. Recalling the moments immediately after McIntosh struck, Ms. McDonald said, "I thought that if I stopped breathing and played dead it would finish and he would go away. I said a prayer to God and went somewhere else peaceful in my own mind to remove myself from what was happening to me." Ms. McDonald said that the day had started like any other, and she took her dog for a walk in the woods as she had done countless times before. She said, "I met a few people, and then I was aware of this man walking towards me. Share this article, share. I can't explain why, but immediately I had a bad feeling. My sixth sense told me that something wasn't right, and I was very uncomfortable. He was a really tall figure, and he had a military-style march." Ms. McDonald described that she felt relief when they passed each other until suddenly she heard his loud, heavy footsteps behind her. She said, "There was a nanosecond of silence when the footsteps stopped, and I just knew that something bad was going to happen. I turned around, and he was running towards me. I had no chance to react before he struck me on the right-hand side of my head. The blow stunned me, and immediately I felt lethargic, but I also realized immediately that I was going to have to fight if I was going to survive." It was at that moment that Linda pleaded with McIntosh not to go through with whatever he had planned. She added, "I said to him, please don't do this." He was expressionless, but he also looked like he was enjoying me begging for my life. I knew he was going to strike again, and I decided I was going to have to scream and make a noise. Ms. McDonald described feeling blood on her head, and her eyesight appeared to falter. She said, "Then the blows continued, and I felt warm blood. I couldn't see, and thought I was going blind." Linda recalled that McIntosh then grabbed hold of her ankles as she lay on the ground and dragged her off the path and into a wooded area. She said, "I must have passed out because I came round and was aware I was on my tummy, being dragged very quickly into the wood. The clothes on my upper body were off and I thought he was going to rape me. He was leaning over me, and it was at this point I decided to stop breathing and play dead. I took myself somewhere else, and at that point I felt peaceful and had no pain. I thought about my family and how distressed they would be if I left them. I prayed to God, and above all else I was determined that I would live to be able to describe my attacker so that he wasn't able to do it to anyone else ever again. I knew I would have to fight to stay conscious, to remember as much as possible. My overriding thought was to make sure that I could describe every detail of that man. I had to make sure he was caught." The next thing Ms. McDonald can recall is two men anxiously leaning over her and that her attacker had gone. The two men, fellow dog walkers Charles and Peter Connor, helped raise the alarm. Dozens of police officers rushed to the scene, immediately launching an enormous manhunt for the person responsible and tending to seriously injured Ms. McDonald. They made an arrest shortly after in the village of Bridgefoot, north of Dundee, and the suspect was revealed to be McIntosh, aged 31 at the time. The attack happened 5 days after he was allowed out of prison on home leave, about 16 years after he had murdered another dog walker, Anne Nichol, 34, by stabbing her to death on Law Hill in Dundee. McIntosh, who has psychopathic traits, was jailed in 2002 for a minimum of 15 years for the murder of civil servant Miss Nichol. But he was allowed home for a week's leave on the 16th anniversary of the murder as he was being prepared for release. After just 5 days of freedom, he put a dumbbell in a rucksack and set out from his home to carry out another horrific attack with chilling similarities to his original crime. Just 3 days after the attack, he had been due to appear at a parole hearing at which he could have been freed from prison. Lord Arthurson imposed an order for lifelong restriction on McIntosh at the High Court in Aberdeen after he pleaded guilty to attempted murder. Although he was told he must serve at least 5 years before he can be considered for parole, the order effectively acts as a life sentence as he can only be freed when the parole board approves his release. McIntosh was warned by the judge that he may never be freed, and sources said he was likely to spend decades in custody.